Welcome back to a timey-wimey pod where we watch every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 onwards. My name's Rebecca.
I'm Haley.
Today we are discussing Boom, not Boomtown, just Boom, which aired May 17th, 2024, and was written by no other than Steven Moffat and directed by Julianne Robinson.
The amount of times today I've been thinking about this episode and how I keep wanting to call it Boomtown is kind of ridiculous. But it's so wild
Me too.
that we have an episode written by Steven Moffat in the year 2024.
I know. I think a lot of people were divided over his return, but this episode, it makes it worth it. He's on fine form in this episode. When Steven Moffat writes Doctor Who, he writes Doctor Who. This was a great example of how well he knows the show and how well he can write sci-fi. This is a fantastic sci-fi story, and I just can't wait to get into it.
Same. Do you want to start out with the fantastic facts?
Yes. So, my first fantastic fact is everyone listening probably already knows this, and you know this, but in this episode, we meet Mundy Flynn, played by Varada Sethu, who just a few weeks ago was announced to be joining Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson in next season, which will air in 2025. And I've seen a lot of confusion over if her character is the new companion or if she's going to play a different companion or a different character in next year. And I checked, RTD said himself that Mundy Flynn's story is over. So I guess she'll come back Varada Sethu will come back in a different way. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be similar to when Freema Agyeman came. She first appeared as Adiola in The Army of Ghosts and Doomsday two-parter, and then she came on as Martha Jones, in Series 3, and it's not unfamiliar territory to have an actor or actress portray someone and then later become a companion later down the line.
Varada's in good company, so she should feel good.
Yeah.
I watched an interview. She didn't even know that when she filmed Boom, she had no idea she would come back. Like months and months had passed after filming when she got the call. So I think that's really cool. And I'm excited to hear more about her and why Russell chose her and what her character next year is going to be.
I'm really intrigued.
My next fantastic fact is about the Skyboat song that we see the 15th Doctor singing in this episode. The second Doctor had played the Skyboat song on his recorder in a 1968 episode, and the Master did the same thing in Power of the Doctor in 2022. So that's a fun little connection. This episode is full of references and Easter eggs, and I love it.
That's really interesting.
Definitely.
Because I really didn't know if the Skyboat song was an actual song or like a new song or like a in-universe Doctor Who song. So that's really interesting to know, and it's kind of cool that's a callback.
Yeah, I love it. My next fantastic fact is that Moffat took inspiration for this episode from the fourth Doctor story, Genesis of the Daleks, in 1975, in which the fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker, steps on a landmine in the first couple of minutes of the episode, but he's able to get off it pretty quickly because it's not a crazy landmine like the one in Boom is. But I really like the idea to kind of go back and what if the Doctor can't get off and what does that look like? And yeah, so it's a good idea, and I thought they did it really well.
I agree.
So what do you think of this opening scene?
I love this opening scene aesthetically, visually. It is so good. The entire set design in this entire episode is so wonderfully done. The CGI is beautiful. I just love how everything looked so, so much. And this opening scene is where we meet John Francis Vacher, we meet Splice, his daughter, we learn of Mundy Flynn, we learn of Kanto, and we kind of get a little bit of an insight that, oh, this is a war torn situation. There's a war going on, and it was very intriguing. It drew me in, and even though I know the full outcome of this episode, I also still want like a show of its own, expanding on like this universe and this world, the Anglican Marines.
Yeah, the Anglican Marines is something that got introduced back in series 5 with the
Mm-hmm.
11th Doctor. And I love that it came back in this episode. That's a concept I find really interesting and intriguing. And yeah, I want to know more and like who these people are. But yeah, and the setting immediately grabs you in. Seeing John and Carson walking around on this planet, and I agree, the CGI, it looks really good. This planet is gorgeous. I love the ending scene when the sky is all cleared up. This whole episode visually looks incredible. But and we see Carson get killed, and we see John get killed, and I love then when you see the TARDIS and the doctor's like, "Did you hear that?" And he knows immediately someone's in trouble. So, and he runs to see what's happening and gets himself in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, I want to quickly just emphasize the shot of the TARDIS in this episode. I don't know what it is about it. I love the shot of just like going straight to the TARDIS. It is so good. It might be one of my favorite like TARDIS appearance scenes ever. I don't know what it is about it. It's just so good.
It is really good, and I love how we kind of just pick up with the Doctor and Ruby there and them being like, "Wait, what's happening?" Like, we don't know how they got there, why they're there. They're just there. And yeah, I think it's a really fun way to start the episode. And the moment the Doctor steps on that landmine, you know we're in
Mm-hmm.
a bad spot.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts as to what Ruby was doing in the TARDIS? Because she was telling 15, hang on one sec. Do you think she was doing anything or just like nothing, just like fixing her outfit or something?
Yeah, she was just getting ready. She thought she was going to the beach, getting that sunblock, or whatever. But no, I don't think she was doing anything like mysterious. I just think they needed her to like hang back for a couple seconds.
Yeah. The scene with Ruby trying to find the doctor and finding him just like eerily singing the Skyboat song gave me the tingles. Like that was very like this is not something we see the doctor do very often is sing to calm himself down. Like that's just not something the doctor does. Granted 15 is a very different version of the doctor than we've seen in the past. I don't know if there's any other situation except for one similar to this where we would hear him sing though to keep himself calm.
Yeah, I really liked the aspect of this episode because of this landmine. The Doctor had to keep even his heart rate even. Like he could not move at all, which I feel like they did kind of break a little bit. I'll get into it when we come
Yeah.
across it, but yeah, I found that to be a really interesting part of this episode, and he has to stay calm even when everything with Ruby is going on and everything with Splice is going on. So I really liked that. And while he's trying to calm himself by singing the song, he also says something about the moon and the president's wife, which immediately sounded familiar to me. I don't know about you.
Oh, immediately I clocked it. I knew immediately what it was referencing. And for those of you listening, this was something that was talked about between the 12th Doctor and Missy. I cannot remember if it's in series 8 or series 9. Series 9. Series 9. And it's a whole little bit where the Doctor's like, technically, like, I didn't steal the president's wife. I don't remember exactly how it goes, actually. But it's just like a
He
whole
says,
little bit
I
in
can't
exchange
remember the
between the Doctor and
specific.
Missy.
Yeah, and then he says later, like, "Oh, it wasn't the president's wife, it was the president's daughter, and I didn't steal the moon, I lost it."
Oh, yeah.
Which is so yeah, which is so fitting, but, yeah, I recognize that immediately. There was another 12th Doctor reference in the opening scene, I don't know if you caught it.
I caught it. It wasn't a 12th Doctor reference, though. It was like a reference in general to the Ninth Doctor more.
Oh, well, there's that, but there is, like, a line that John says that the 12th Doctor had said at one point. It's when,
Oh, yes.
yes. In the opening scene when John is talking to Splice, his daughter, he tells her to brush her teeth, and she says, "Well, you can't tell my breath stinks over the comms." And then he says, "Dad skills," which is something 12 said in the episode Listen. And I caught it on the rewatch and it immediately reminded me of 12.
That's hilarious because you and me were thinking about two totally different lines. The line I thought you were going to say was when the doctor told Ruby to go the long way around. Because that's something 12 said a lot.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and 11.
Mm-hmm.
12 and 11, I guess. Yeah.
You're right. But the Easter egg, the biggest Easter egg in this entire episode, is in reference to the Villengard Corporation, Villengard Industries, Villengard in general. If you guys don't know, in this 2005 episode, The Doctor Dances, which is part of Steven Moffat's first two Doctor Who episodes ever, the Ninth Doctor mentions that he may have destroyed the factories on Villengard and planted banana groves in its place. The reason this came about is because the character Jack Harkness brought up he got his squareness gun from there. Flash forward to this episode, we find out this whole war is manufactured by the Villengard Corporation.
And they also come up in Twice Upon a Time from 2017. They're the corporation using people's memories. It's been a while since I watched that episode, but yeah, y'all remember.
Yeah, so it was fun to have that callback. And to be completely honest, I did not clock it the first time. I knew it sounded familiar. I could not place it until I saw a tweet.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it as either at first, which I don't know what that says about us, considering we just watched that episode.
You mentioned, not while we were recording, but you mentioned to me that there's a lot of great lines in this episode while we were waiting to press record. And I agree. There's a lot of great lines.
There's so many great lines. I specifically love when the Doctor says everything becomes a beach eventually. I don't know why, but there's something about that. I love that line. And there's stuff at the end. Do you have a favorite line from this episode?
My favorite from this episode is when he's telling Mundy, "I'm a complex space-time event. I'm a much bigger bang than you bargained for. I'm a lot more explosive than I look. And honey, I know how I look." Just what a line. What a line to say. Like the sass. I love it so much.
I love that too. That's a great line. All the more reason to love the 15th Doctor. I want to talk about the scene in the crater when Ruby has to hand the Doctor John's casket, what they call it, his like smushed cylinder thing, which was very gross. Yeah. I knew immediately what it was when I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, Ruby, don't touch it. Don't touch it." But I love that scene of the two of them in the crater, and 15 tells Ruby to just throw it to him, and Ruby says no, she's going to hand it to him because the chances will be better. And the back and forth they have in the scene is so good. Both of them deliver amazing performances. The dialogue is so good. I love this moment.
Yeah, 15 telling Ruby that what she's doing is incredibly stupid, and if it works, he's going to be very cross at her for a very long time. But also, just him actually being terrified the landmine is going to go off because he doesn't know how sensitive it is It just, such a great scene full of so much suspense. That's what I love about this entire episode, is how suspenseful all of it is and how much it draws you in and you want to stay there and like you want more of this episode than you get. And it's literally, there's only 3 locations in this episode: the field, the camp, and the crater where the landmine is. That's literally it. And everyone has very different feelings on Steven Moffat, but he completely nailed this episode, in my opinion.
Definitely. The suspense in this episode is done really well. Like, you are on edge. The scene I was most on edge for probably was when Splice first shows up at the crater and she hears her dad, or
Yeah.
she sees her dad's hologram, and she runs toward him. And Ruby has to stop her, and they're like struggling, and you're just so scared that like the doctor's gonna get knocked over or something's gonna happen and set off the landmine. And just the suspense in that moment is so great throughout this episode. It's really great, and Shudi gives a amazing performance. You can see so clearly on his face every emotion that he's feeling throughout this episode, and he plays it so well.
I know we talked about it in Space Babies or The Devil's Court. I cannot remember which one it is, but we both mentioned how the 15th Doctor very quickly was the Doctor for us, where usually it takes a bit of time for previous incarnations to get to that point. But honestly, until this episode, like this was the episode where fully and completely I was like, yep, that's the Doctor. Yep, this is the 15th Doctor's one of his like defining moments. And Shudi just did a wonderful job.
I completely agree. I'm already sold on the 15th Doctor. Like, I'm here, I'm ready. But this episode, already, I know people are going to look back on this as one of Shudi's best performances as the Doctor. And really, just like that moment, it's it's almost like his Everybody Lives moment. Like, if you didn't like the Doctor before that, you knew you were gonna like him in the Doctor Dances when he got that Everybody Lives. And if you didn't like 15 already, you have to like him here because his performance is just incredible.
Definitely. The scene I honestly felt really suspenseful for, besides Splice coming up and trying to get to like this melted urn of her dead father. Um and Ruby having to like wrestle her from the ground so she does wrestle her to the ground so she doesn't set off the landmine. Besides this scene, the other scene was when Ruby was shot. I'm sorry, we're just jumping to it. We're jumping to the action.
Yeah, that was such a shock. Kanto shows up out of nowhere, shoots Ruby because he sees she's about to shoot Mundy, even though Mundy told her to shoot her. And which that brief moment between Verada and Millie, I'm really excited to see more of them. They're such good actresses, so I can't wait to see more of that next year. But yeah, seeing Ruby fall into the crater and the Doctor's reaction, absolutely heartbreaking.
The entire way this scene was shot and done has a grip on me. The music, the almost like slow-mo kind of feeling, it was so good. And honestly, like I knew that Ruby would be fine in the end, even at this point, because I mean, we've seen like the trailer, like there's future episodes with her. We know that she's in the next series. But still, even when you know that in Doctor Who, you don't know if this version of the character is gonna be okay, because we have Rory Williams that kind of set precedent where he was with us for a long time, but there was many different versions of him and he kept dying. So like you really never know with Doctor Who, even when you think a character is going to be okay. And so to have that moment, it was really shocking. I didn't think they would go there. I did not think they would literally have Ruby die. Like she literally died. She was able to be revived.
Yeah.
By the ambulance at the last minute. But besides that, she died.
Moffat, you knew he was going to have to get a couple kills in, and a lot of people do die in this episode.
Yeah.
Ruby, John, Kanto, Carson. I mean, yeah, it's a war, but geez, come on.
I mean, that's Moffat's MO. How else is he supposed to like emotionally hurt us without killing off characters?
So true. Let's talk more about the side characters we meet. What do you think of Splice?
I don't understand the internet hate on Splice because I don't hate her. I don't think she was annoying. I think the role was written for a little bit of a younger actress and that maybe that would have come across better. But I don't think she's that annoying as people are making her out to be. I think she's
No
cute.
hate towards the actress. The actress did a great job. I hope she had a lot of fun. I do find the character annoying. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm usually not one to be like, oh, this child actor's annoying, this child character's annoying. But Splice I found a little annoying. I think it would have been better to cast someone a bit younger, but I'm sorry, just the scene and when she shows up in the crater and her talking about the dad and the antelope, I'm like, oh my, like, how do you not know what's going on? It bugged me, but again, no hate. She did the best she could with the writing, and I'm sorry, I just found her annoying.
I think if they had picked someone younger, a lot of other people would have probably liked her more. I don't mind her. I didn't find her super annoying. So everyone's different.
Completely. Now Mundy Flynn, on the other hand, is a character I found really interesting. She clearly has a lot going
Yeah.
on. She's in the Anglican Marines. She has this kind of complicated relationship with Kanto, but she's really close with Splice and John, and I found her character really interesting, and she's a tattoo artist, and I just loved all her dynamic with the doctor, and Verada did a great job, and I really liked her character. But I am glad that this isn't the character that's becoming the new companion. I'm glad it's going to be someone else. As much as I did like the side character, I'm not sure if they're companion material necessarily, so I'm excited to see
Yeah.
what else we have in store.
I mean, it would be cool if we had a companion from another planet. But in this particular instance, I agree with you.
Yeah, I do want to see companions from other planets and other times in history. I think that would be really cool. Don't be a coward, Russell. Give it to us. We don't need a 21st century companion. We can have something different. It's okay.
Yes, Russell, please give us something new. Give us something different, okay?
What did you think of Kanto, who we meet is another Anglican Marine and another person that dies in this episode?
Kanto, honestly, I don't have a ton of feelings about him. I did know as soon as there's that moment where him and Mundy are talking and he's talking about how he really likes her and she's like, "What? No." That was the moment I knew that Moffat was going to kill him off. I just knew. I mean, I think I don't fault him for shooting Ruby because he wasn't given any information. What else was he supposed to do? Just stand there when the woman he loves is being held at gunpoint? So, like, I don't blame him for that. It is kind of a bummer he got killed by the ambulance.
I was really annoyed when he shot Ruby, but I agree. Like, he sees his friend about to get shot. Your instincts kind of kick in, even if it's not for the best. I found the whole romance thing just like because there's like we saw so little of them, just a little unnecessary and like okay, whatever. Like we don't really have time to get into it and figure out what's going on. But when he did die, I found that really sad and Mundy's reaction really sad. And I loved when the hologram was like
Mm-hmm.
or like the AI, whatever you want to call it, said he loved her, but it's okay that she doesn't love him back. And I found that really sweet.
I agree. That was a sweet moment. I do agree that it felt like the romance was kind of thrown in there, but the AI message was so sweet and it made me a little emotional.
Right before Ruby gets shot, Mundy is basically saying she's going to shoot the doctor. Like the landmine's going to go up anyways. It's on a timer essentially. But then he tells her, I'm a Time Lord, I'm not human. If I blow up, it's going to, destroy half the planet and everyone here essentially. Before, he convinces her, she shoots the doctor like 3 times in the arm. How does the doctor not move during this? Like, how?
He's the doctor. He's the Time Lord. I just attribute that to his Time Lord abilities.
Yeah, I do too, but I'm how? But no, you are right. The scene where Ruby falls into the crater and the ambulance is looking up her next of kin, I found really sad, and it's like searching and searching and searching. And Ruby's like, just tell me who it is. Who's my next of kin? And then the snow starts falling as she's dying. It's so. I loved that scene.
That entire scene has me in a chokehold because, oh, by the way, we haven't even mentioned it. Susan Twist is back and she's the ambulance lady.
Oh, yes.
But she is like glitching out when she says next of kin to Ruby. And it's just such a sad moment. And the guttural sound the 15th Doctor makes, I don't know what it is about it. It just has a grip on me. And when the Doctor notices the snow, he's like, it's snowing. This has happened before. Like, that means there's hope. But then the snow stops. And then the ambulance is like, vitals failing, heart is failing, body's failing, basically. And then it seems like she just stops responding. And there's just this entire scene where everything is just like, he's just out of it and he's just broken. This entire scene, acted, shot really well.
I love when he's talking to her and he's like, I need to talk to stay alive and I can only talk to you, Ruby, as she's like dying, dead, passed out. I loved that. It was very 11-esque. I don't know. I could like that's a very 11 Amy moment.
That entire moment is so sad. And then he's like, do you get it, Ruby? Do you get it? Do you get it? And he's like mocking the Susan Twist ambulance glitching when he's saying that.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I really love the moment when he's talking to the AI John and they need the AI to like go into the system, figure stuff out, save Ruby. And it's just an AI, so you don't think the doctor is going to be able to reason with it. But he says, dad to dad, like, save your kid. And I love that. The doctor saying that and connecting with John as a father. It's just like such a sweet moment. And I love when that AI like turns back to Splice and says, brush your teeth, kiss, kiss. And then we see him like take over the ambulance and at first we think he lost, and we see Susan Twist that he's gone, he was a virus, but then he takes over, and it's such a good moment.
Yeah, and then at the last literal possible second, right when you think everything's about to blow up, all you hear is kiss kiss, and you just know John Vader saved the day and Ruby is revived and she's alive.
Yes, thank goodness. I love Ruby coming back and the doctor being like, "Oh, why are you always gone for the good stuff?" And he explains how John just saved them all and took down Villain Guard's entire system. Oh, and before this, I don't think we talked about it, but he tells Mundy that they are fighting themselves. They came to this planet. Yeah. They declared, what they're doing. And in order to keep making money, because war is good for business, unfortunately, they were basically fighting themselves, keeping the conflict going to the point where they thought there was creatures in the mud or in the fog fighting, but they were fighting themselves.
Yep, they trigger the Villain Guard algorithm, dying at just the right speed to keep buying. I like how episodes like these kind of have a deeper meaning that you can kind of just like think about for a while.
Yeah, I love, you know, the connections in this episode, and it's message about like weapons and profiteering and war, and I just found it all really interesting, and the way it was written really compelling. And like I said earlier, like this is such a great example of a good science fiction story. I love when sci-fi takes something from our world, something that we understand, and shows it in a new way, and shows it like this is what could happen if we don't do something about it now, and shows it on like worst case scenario. And like it's a classic Moffat is it's like in season 10 during like the don't breathe episodes when, you know, the oxygen costs money and all that.
Oh my
Very
gosh.
classic Moffat, but I loved this, and such a great, I just can't get over how good of a sci-fi story this is.
I completely agree with you. I said, oh my gosh, like that because I just had flashbacks to watching Oxygen and holding my breath watching the episode, literally. Um,
Yeah.
but no, I agree. It is a really great sci fi episode. And this is what I love about Doctor Who. There's just so much variety in the types of episodes we see. And when we get a sci fi episode like this, like you want to go in this world more, you want to expand upon it. And I love it. I love it so much. This is a great classic Moffat episode. This is his 49th episode, which is wild. Don't ask me to rank it against his other episodes because I can't. So I personally loved it a lot.
Me too. I love in the ending scene when the doctor's talking to Splice, and he says he's sorry about her dad, and she says he's not gone. He's dead, but he's not gone. And I loved that, and I found that very so poignant and so real. And I loved earlier in the episode when she says that her mom was gathered up, that God gathered her up, and that they'll see her again someday. And I thought that was really sweet.
I agree. I love the line too of Splice saying, he's not dead. Wait,
He's
he's
gone.
not dead.
He's not gone,
Wait, what?
but wait.
Guys, I keep screwing up this line. This is the 10th time I've attempted to
We've
say
been
it.
trying for like 5 minutes to say this.
Okay, it's he's not dead. He's just gone, right?
Yes. You got
As
it.
I was saying
Wait,
that
wait. No, you missed. He's not gone. He's dead, but he's not gone.
that line just sorry. I love that line. I recently lost someone who I love dearly, so that was a line that just hit a little harder and deeper that I felt was really beautiful, even though I keep messing it up. So, yeah, I really like that. And I love how at the end, also, the 15th Doctor mentions he'll be popping in now and then, and how his favorite is fish, fingers, and custard. I screamed. I audibly screamed when I heard him say that. You don't understand. I have not heard those words come out of a doctor's mouth since the 11th Doctor.
I know that was everything. Matt Smith, come back. I loved that completely. All the 11 era references just absolutely killed me. I love it. I do think
Same.
it's interesting that he said he'll come back and pop in. The doctor doesn't do that. He doesn't come back and check in. What do you think he means by that? Are we going to see Splice again? Are we going to see Monday again somehow? What do you take of that?
I don't know. I think it can be one of two things. I feel like one, it could be a new characteristic of the Doctor with the 15th version. We see he's less emotionally avoidant than previous incarnations. That's what I've noticed. I think also it's slightly possible that was a self-insert line from Moffat himself about himself when it comes to writing Doctor Who episodes. But I don't really know what to fully make of that line.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. As with a lot of things in this era right now, there's a lot of penny in the air, and we're waiting for the penny to drop, if you get that reference. What's the line at the end where the doctor's like, A sad old man once told me, what does a sad old man say? Because I just have that a sad old man, but what was the line? Because I really like that line, but I can't remember it.
The line is, "What survives of us is love," and that is a line from a poem written by Philip Larkin titled "In a Rundle Tomb."
Oh, I really like that. So I guess that's the sad old man, because I was going to ask you, who's the sad old man? But I guess now we know that guy.
Yeah, I love that quote. What survives of us is love.
And I love how this episode just ends on the hug between Ruby and 15 and them waving goodbye. And I love earlier when the doctor takes in the view and he takes a deep breath and then he's like, okay, time to go. Like that's what I love about the doctor. We keep
Yeah.
moving, let's take a moment. As we learned in the 60th, I think we sometimes need to take a breath. But let's keep going. Let's there's bit more to see. And yeah, I love that moment. It's so doctory. Of course, he just stood on a landline for like 30 minutes and now he's ready to go.
Yeah. That part was funny where he was like, okay, Ruby, by the way, your lifespan sucks, so let's get going. 2 minutes is enough.
Yeah.
What do you think is the heart of this episode?
This one's a hard one. I think the heart of this episode.
I'm just going to say, in my opinion, the ending quote, "What survives of us is love." That's the heart of this episode.
Oh, I do like that. I think you're right. That is the heart of this episode, especially with everything with John. And in the end of the day, it's the part of him that's the father that saves the day, not the soldier, not the Anglican, but the dad part. And so you're right. What survives of us is love. I think that's the heart for sure. You nailed it. Now, who is the
Thanks.
star of this episode?
None other than John Francis Vader. I mean, he is an AI recreation for basically the whole time he pops up in this episode. But I just really like it. I really like how, as a father, he just had the strength to beat Villain Guard. What about you?
I mean, if anyone is deserving, it's him. Like, he saves the day, even though he's dead and an AI. He's definitely a contender. And I was conflicted. He's great. Mundy's great. But I have to give it to the doctor. Specifically, just Shruti Gatwa's performance is just incredible. The acting he had to do standing on the landmine, his leg up in the air for part of it, like it's absolutely incredible. So the 15th Doctor is the star of the show in this episode.
He truly is. When you were asking me who the star of the episode is, I thought we had agreed it would be like side characters, but I could have totally misunderstood.
I think I meant it. Maybe I did say side characters originally, but I more meant it as like anyone can be the star.
Okay, then I'm gonna amend. You know what? I'll keep mine. I won't copy you.
Yeah.
But the 15th Doctor is the star. He's great in this.
Yeah. Now, what are the people of Reddit saying about this episode? If we dare ask.
We are daring to ask in this episode. I know for a fact this same user, I shared one of their comments either last week or in the Space Babies episode. So, subreddit user hot takes for hotcakes. You're just the star of our Reddit section.
You're the star of the show.
You are. So they said on the Doctor Who subreddit, that felt really short. It wasn't, but man, that 44 minutes flew by. Moffat's dialogue, humor, and plotting always propelled the episode and never left you bored, even in some of his weaker plots. Not to downplay Russell T Davies' work thus far, which has been great, we'll save some things. But it really didn't feel like the season was a return to form until now. Not just because Moffat's flair is unmistakable and inseparable from the revival at this point, but also because of the tonal shift from the first two episodes and the Church on Ruby Road. It's much appreciated and much needed, frankly. We needed something dark and serious. camp is great, but it's only one part of the show. This is the other part, and I was really afraid it wasn't going to show up.
Yeah, I completely agree with that comment. I love this episode. It's definitely one of my favorites of the new era. Somewhere between Wild Blue Yonder, The Giggle, and Church on Ruby Road. It's somewhere amongst those of being my favorites for sure. And it's a great return to form. And it just shows the duality of Doctor Who. We can go from Beatles and Maestro and a musical moment with a wink at the end to something like this. And that's something that has something to say about capitalism and religion and war and profiteering. And it's the duality of Doctor Who for you.
And that's what I love about it. I
Me too.
completely agree. I don't want every single episode always to be dark and like
No,
intense like this episode, but I do like having it in the mix.
definitely.
Guys, I'm going to be honest. There were comments on Reddit that didn't love this episode, but I'm being toxic for you guys, and I'm only keeping the good comments in this week because I want to. So I'm sorry. Usually I like to do both sides of the coin because it's good to know a full rounded opinion. Sorry, you're not getting this in this episode. Love y'all so much. Respect all of your opinions. We're keeping it positive in this section.
Yeah.
All right, this last comment is by the user I'm Smart, I Swear on the Doctor Who subreddit, and they said, Doctor Who episodes are known to consist of 3 things: running down corridors, fighting monsters, and using the sonic screwdriver to solve everything. The Doctor literally didn't move the whole episode. There was no monster. The sonic was never seen. Simply spectacular.
I completely agree. I didn't even notice until that comment. They're right. We didn't see the Sonic at all.
Yeah, we didn't.
Which I'm fine with because there's definitely eras of the show that have relied on the Sonic more than others. So I'm glad that we're not focusing too much on the Sonic. I saw some people last week say they didn't like the way the Sonic was used. I was fine with that, but I'm glad it's
Same.
not all the time.
I agree with you completely.
Do you have anything else to say about Boom?
I don't think so. I mean, we didn't really talk about how the Doctor and Ruby mentioned it's Ruby's first time on like a different planet in this episode, which I find interesting.
Wait, I did want to mention that because
Okay.
okay, in the Devil's Court, they say it's like June her time. They met in December. So they've been, traveling for like 6 months, and it's just now her first time on a planet? After 6 months, they didn't go to any planets?
Yeah. And okay, I found this one. Okay. At the end when 15 is celebrating, he says, "This is the day, October the 5th. Granted, this could be a completely throwaway line. It could be October the 5th on the planet they're on. It could not be applicable to like Ruby's like actual world timeline. But like, timey-wimey.
Very timey-wimey. I didn't notice the October the 5th thing, but interesting.
Yeah. So we shall see. I did kind of have like a minor theory last week I didn't mention that maybe we're being shown their adventures out of order, but I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know if that. I don't know.
Maybe. We have Boomtown. We have Boom. Now we just need Town to complete the trilogy.
We do need that to complete the trilogy. So, Russell, Steven, any other potential writers of episodes, please name one town so you can complete our
Town
trilogy.
is a great episode name.
It is. That sounds so fun.
I'm like, ooh, Town. What's this? Maybe I'll write it.
Oh my gosh, you should.
I should. All right. But until then, we will see you guys next week for 73 yards.
I'm so excited about that. Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you.
Me too. The reviews have already started coming in and it's getting a lot of hype. So I'm really excited.
Same. But Until then, we will talk to you guys next week. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram and TikTok, which is timey-wimey-pod. And don't forget to email us anything and everything to
timey-wimey-pod@gmail.com.
And with all that said, we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.